God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
6/5/2018.
First item, Twyla.
Roll call. Counselor Albert?
Here.
Counselor Colby?
Here.
Counselor LaRochelle?
Here.
Counselor Ward?
Here.
Counselor Lund?
Here.
Counselor Crawford?
Here.
And Counselor Brunel?
Is excused. He's got an issue with his back.
Okay, so we need a motion.
Please.
I'll make the motion.
I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Thank you.
He's excused.
Next item.
Under good news and recognition.
Is anybody? Yes, please.
Good evening, Tracy Stuber, Economic and Community Development Director. The first good news is that Lisbon is successful in receiving another $300,000 for CDBG funds, so I am very excited about that. This will be for the Lisbon Village area. Next step, we'll be going through the phase 2, so I'll be coming back before council on the updates of the project. And we have 6 months as far as the timeline that we're going to be working on the project on what we want to do. So in keeping that in mind and working with LDC, it will allow us time to really go through everything, work with the new public works director, see what we have in that area and the cost, and be able to put together a nice plan for some new sidewalks up at this end of town. So very excited about that. The second item is I passed out to you a picture of our new bus. So Western Main Transportation, this will be the new Lisbon connection. We have the opportunity to design the windows for the bus. So on the white, it will say Lisbon connection, and it will stay white. There won't be any other things. So I just kind of gave you a little bit of preview of some examples that I put together, and I told Western Main Transportation that I'd bring this before council, take any suggestions that you may have, so that we can get this in for the letter. And this is not going to cost us anything as far as to do this. This will be part of the package of doing the letter, and it just allows us to promote the town a little bit more on both sides of the bus.
Any feedback on what we're seeing for content?
No, I think the idea of advertising the website's huge, because then we can actually broaden anything from there, right? Anything we want to highlight at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
What's the mascot in the back window?
It's Beaver Park.
So, Beaver Park.
I couldn't read that at all.
Yeah, I know.
Took me a second.
The windows are kind of blacked out. I mean, we'll definitely be, see it. You won't see any of the white.
Right.
Speaking with Mark, he wanted to have the rec logo on there, so it made sense to put that on that side with Beaver Park. Then the other side, of course, will have the town's logo. We like the colored one, give it a little bit of splash. And then what we're known for is the home of the Moxie Festival.
The graphic there for the home of the Moxie Festival, it seems kind of blah. Are we going to do something else to kind of dress it up a little bit, or is that the plan?
This
Mock-up?
Yeah, this is very much so a mock-up. Now, I kind of threw this together just so you can kind of get the idea of what it could look like, yes.
I didn't think these were the finished product.
No. No, it's not vector or anything like that, the logos, the designs of it, so it's still going to go through that process. But if council has anything that they, would rather see on there, please let me know.
I think it's great for discussion. Thank them for their consideration and move forward with.
Okay.
Anybody else? Good news and recognition. Seeing none, next item, Twyla.
I have two.
Oh, sorry. I was hoping, since you have one.
I wanted to congratulate the class of 2018. They did a phenomenal job at that ceremony. And I also want to recognize the American Legion for the fantastic parade that they put on and everybody who showed up.
Thank you. Next item, then.
Is the public hearing for a victualer's license and itinerant vendor permit for Pinky D's?
I'll open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak on behalf of this item? Seeing, yes, Dot.
I just have a question, and when you brought this up, it reminded me, why do you wait until after the fact to get a permit for a victualer's license. I mean, he's been open and operating, but this is not the first time. You know, this happens all the time. It's been going on for a few years now. And just my question, shouldn't they be getting the approval before they open instead of after? Not that I'm questioning,
Sure, sure.
Pinky D's or anyone.
I believe it's an annual process that we go through, and it's based on the expiration date since the last time they actually had a permit. So this would be
Okay,
for
so
the
it's
current
a renewal.
renewal for the current year.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Next item, Twilight.
Audience participation and response for agenda items.
Anybody wishing to address the council for anything on the agenda? Seeing no one, moving on.
Next is the consent agenda. Any counselor wishing to have any item removed may do so now. I seeing none. Order 2018-115, the municipal accounts payable and payroll warrants, number 128 for $13,418.53, number 129 for $173,588.26, number 130 for $17,004.97, number 131 for $335.86, number 132 for $11,883.06, number 133 for $177,427.97, number 134 for $723,474.19, number 135 for $16,620.71, number 136 for $404.87. School accounts payable and payroll warrants, number 33 for $1,076.87, number 1064 for $373,749.87, number 1065 for $12,410.07, and number 1823 for $102,767.37. Along with the minutes of May 8th, 2018, and the minutes of May 15, 2018, the victualer's license and itinerant vendor permit for Pinky D's pending receipt of his landowner permission letter, and the victualer's license and itinerant vendor permit for Mac Daddy's Mobile Cuisine, and the Moxie Committee's itinerant vendor 1 week festival permit, and the Lisbon Recreation itinerant vendor festival permits for Moxie 5K race and the Moxie Car Show.
I need a motion.
I'll make them.
Motion to accept.
I heard the second. One or the other. You decide. I heard Cassie and Fern.
Okay.
All in favor?
Order passed 7-0.
Next item.
Council orders, ordinances, and resolutions. Order 2018-116, Cook's Lobster and Ale House, off-premise catering permit for the beer garden.
Anything that we haven't already heard on this? It's coming back because we decided we do need to have that permit.
You do need to approve their off-premise catering permit, but it's been determined that we do not need to do a special entertainment permit. It's not required. So we've completed our processing for the license or for the application, and so this catering permit is now ready for your approval.
Any other questions from the last meeting?
We have a suggested motion if you'd like me to read it.
Please do.
Okay. The motion would be to approve the off-premise catering permit for Cook's Lobster and Ale House, along with the permission to possess and sell alcohol on the property on Campus Street adjacent to MTM Park for the beer garden on July 14th, recognizing that the event is a special public event for public gatherings. The event is sponsored by PCL, a charitable nonprofit organization or civic group, and that Cook's will hold a valid on-premise liquor license on July 14th and file proof of the same with the town clerk in Lisbon, and that Cook's will hold a valid off-premise catering permit.
I need a first for that motion.
Move that forward.
Second.
The first and the second. All in favor?
Order passed 6-0, isn't it?
Yes.
We will have to have you sign.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll circulate that.
Next.
Order 2018-117, the Moxie Festival street closure. Yep, anywhere on this bottom part.
Tracy Stuber, Economic and Community Development Director, also Moxie Festival Coordinator. Everything is pretty much the same except for one item, and that's why I wanted to address Council, because I wanted you to understand the changes that was made. We are adding an art walk event, which is going to kind of bring us further up on Main Street. Due to all the activities going on at MTM and the safety, we did have a safety meeting with Public Works, police, fire, and everybody feels the same, that what we would like to do is close off from Main Street to Berry Ave, and then all in front of the MTM, so that way the traffic going back and forth, there will be no traffic allowed in that area where there's a lot of kids and families that are trying to cross the street there at School Street. So that is the only addition that we had changed in regards to the street closure.
Is the street closure for the beer garden on that list?
Not on our list. That was, they had approached you as far as enclosing, on that street when they came.
Okay,
So that's
already,
part of their
that's already part of that, what we've already taken action on.
Yes, that's.
Are we sure of that?
It said that in the motion was to sell alcohol on the property on campus adjacent to MTM Park, the beer garden.
Okay. I just want to make sure that was covered if it wasn't on the other list. It's all, okay,
Yeah.
Good.
And that was a conversation that we had within our meeting as well, that's where that would be going on. So we would be working around that. We've already come up with a different route for our bus, which hopefully we'll have the new bus in motion at that time. So,
Okay, so we're pulling closures back now from Berry to Main down?
correct.
Okay.
If I could, is there any way that possibly we could, maybe the week previous, trying to actually get some informational out there just so the people in the neighborhood would have an idea of what's coming up that week around Berry Avenue and School Street, just so they can plan ahead of time? I mean, it doesn't seem that it'd be that much of a burden, but on the other hand, if you wake up not knowing what's going on and realize that you can't get out where you typically go and trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
then-
Well, the street closures is always posted anyways as far as I do that. It's within the newspaper article that puts together. We also post it on the website. So, trying to get the information, and I certainly can send it over to Campus Commons and the folks over there too. We can have it posted up at the MTM Center.
Maybe even put something on our website just saying, due
Yeah.
to Moxie, these roads would be closed.
Yeah.
I know, only reason I live on a road that actually gets closed off because of the Moxie race. And I know last year there was some really unhappy people on the street that couldn't go to work because they were waiting and they couldn't get out.
Right.
And usually they put a sign there, and I think it was there, but it was small. So I think anything we do to actually just notify the
Yep.
people that be affected ahead of time, it may actually, and again, it's not everybody goes on different places to look for it, but
Right.
at least we can say it was out there, if nothing else.
Right. We have, the one thing that we do at least have now, I mean, it's always been on the website and posted out on Facebook as well, and we can share it on the community page, is by having the alerts on our website. It's just a great tool, is because that's where I can send that out and let folks know.
That would be helpful. Just at least put it out there, and someone can actually say, don't you know that this is happening? So
Yeah.
it may not be a big factor because they always can find an alternative route.
Correct.
Unfortunately, on our dead end, it was
Right.
you were there.
No
but
place to go.
It's all good. As long as people know ahead of time, they can plan, that's
Yep.
all.
We'll add Campus Street to this motion as well, just to cover it, make sure it's all covered.
For that section for the beer garden.
I think the publication is a good idea too, because we've just eliminated one of the other escape routes. People used to go
Yes.
down School Street straight up over High when the parade is in process
Oh, yeah.
to get out of town.
Yeah.
You just eliminated that option, so now it's a little more roundabout to be able to get where you're going that day.
Yeah, Summer Street becomes a little bit of a freeway that day, so.
Yeah. I never see more of my neighbors than on that festival because everybody's working the side streets to get it where they
Yeah,
need to
trying
go.
to get out.
Right.
Yep.
Anything else? I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Need a second.
Second thought.
All in favor?
Order passed 6-0.
Thank you.
Next one.
Order 2018-118, the Moxie Festival Art Wall.
Marcia Crawford, Lisbon Falls. I've been working with Tracy trying to put together the Moxie Festival Art Walk and bringing the arts related to the festival this year. And my idea was to add some murals to the side of the library on Union Street. They're temporary murals. They're wheat paste murals. They last for 3 to 4 months. They're paper, and all it is literally wheat and boiling water, and you stick them up, and it doesn't hurt the brick. It doesn't damage anything. And so sorry, I'm nervous. I have to breathe for a second.
Sure, take your time.
You're all good.
All right, loosey goosey.
If it helps, turn around and see the kids waving to dad.
My support system. Yeah, I feel better. Sorry. Okay, so the theme this year, we all know, is Moxie Through the Decades. So I designed this one. This is an Art Nouveau Moxie mural. And I thought that it would be cool to have 3 different art movements kind of representing different times in art history. So there would be this one, and then I would design a Cubist Moxie mural and a pop art Moxie mural. And I wanted to get you guys approval on that and kind of hopefully move forward with this.
I have a question. Did you draw that?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Please.
How far in advance would you be able to put these up? I mean, the only thing I'd be concerned about is if something was to happen, if they were up too early. That's all. But
My hope would be that you guys would let me start putting them up the last week in June.
okay, and the time frame would be fine as far as for up there. We just want to make sure we keep a good eye on them. That's all. But
Yeah.
how far off? How big are they going to be? I mean, as far as
Well, I'd have to go down with a tape measure and really measure, but between the windows, I think I could get hopefully 10 by 10, but if not, 8 by 8. So I think it would be really cool. And the other idea I had was to print out like a paragraph describing the Art Nouveau movement. Maybe I could get some recommendations from a librarian of good books, and put that underneath just for a little bit more of a learning opportunity.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You're right to coordinate with Diana, the librarian.
Yeah.
They could do a whole display of books they have that would match with your theme there for the month. Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea.
Be really exciting.
Can we get some of the sketches for the office when it's all said and done?
Sure.
You can have them back. We'll loan them to us so we can
Yeah.
display them. So I think that kind of work certainly deserves to be displayed.
Yeah.
It's fantastic stuff. Thank you for taking that on.
Oh, thank you.
This is a school project for Marcia, so she's actually getting college credit for doing this project with the festival.
Awesome.
Very cool. How is the rest of the art walk actually coming? Not to pull away from that. Is that coming together?
It's coming together. We have kind of a low turnout this year, but it's the first year, so I'm hoping, people will sell some stuff, people will show their art, and more people will be excited about it for next year. Oh, good. Yeah, that's great.
Perfect.
With 30 to 50,000
We
people.
go ahead?
converge.
Yeah.
I'm down. Yeah, I'm a yes on
I
that.
need a motion.
I would make a motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
And hopefully anything we can do as a community to actually make sure they still stay in place while they're there, I think is huge. I mean, it's a pretty lighted area. Just make sure that we keep a good eye on it. That's all.
I
A
just
lot of
have
work.
One other question. You said it's made out of wheat?
No, it's printed on really thin paper, and the paste is made out of wheat.
Oh.
But it's very strong.
So-
It's what they post like in New York City when you're walking down the sidewalks, all those ads where sometimes they're peeling. It's kind of cool. It's wheat paste murals.
So if we have really bad weather, is it going to do any damage to?
Potentially, but probably not. In 2 to 3 months, it probably will start peeling, but I'd come back and peel it all off.
I just don't want in case there were bad weather for it to get
Yeah.
ruined.
No.
All that hard work.
Good? Okay.
Hey, you had nothing to be nervous about. You knocked it out of the park.
Yep. Thank you.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Order 2018-119, IT discussion.
That's you, Mr. Man.
So I think where we left it last was that we wanted to talk with council to let you know a little bit about the inner workings of going to an outside resource who has 20 plus different conversions they've done with other municipalities. So they're well versed in this. They can come in here and make an assessment of our needs, what we have, And logical steps, they're going to be the ones that will be the point persons to do the work that our staff is just not able to do. There is a pretty significant cost associated with this. This is, first part of this discussion is about a $5,000 fee to do the assessment, and that's where we're at right now. And then from there, they'll price it out. But I mean, full disclosure, it's not going to be cheap, but we know that Trio is sinking, and it's not something that we can lifeboat to something else or a new product from Trio. Trio is down. It's affecting a lot of municipalities in many different places, and Diane can speak to that probably in detail as to how it's hurting us here. So I think we're at that point where we have to make this decision. We went in with Munis. It's been painful because of some things that were promised up front, or maybe the previous finance director thought he was going to be able to take on his own, and now he's gone, and there's no way that current staff is able to do that. So I think that our next smart step here, if I'm making a recommendation, is to let that group come in, make the assessment, and then from there we can come back with some numbers and a plan that says we'll put these modules in first. This is the time frame. That way we can use these to get some of the revenue that we're not getting right now, or whatever it is that we're being hamstrung by with Trio. We can get that stuff out of the way first, and then we'll gradually bring in the other modules. So,
Did they, in any of your discussions, give you a flavor for the upside of what it may be, either based on the number of modules that we have or size community?
oh, absolutely. Feel free.
Just might as well.
Hi, Lydia Colston, Finance Director. A couple of weeks ago, I went to the GFOA conference and spoke with a representative from Barry Dunn who does this. And they said they'll come in, they'll take a gander at what we've already got going and what it'll take to get us going live. What was your question?
Did they give you any comparables to
Ballpark figures,
yeah, the oh my gosh, drop dead figure?
No.
No?
It really is dependent on how much we have done and how much they have to do. They did give me like an hourly rate, so depending on how many hours they have to spend, it's at that. I did ask them, just for my curiosity's sake, because I've been at it for 1.5 years now and haven't gone live yet. I asked them how long it typically takes them to go from nothing to set up, and they said 2 to 3 people working 40-hour weeks, about 6 to 9 months.
So
since I'm only able to put 5 to 10 hours a week, I suppose that's why I'm not live yet. But
with that equation, though, you just added up some pretty substantial numbers. I'd say that the $5,000 assessment is actually
it's a leaping off point. Very clearly a leaping off point.
What this initial assessment will do, it's $4,400. They're going to come in. They're going to completely analyze what we have built so far. They're going to recommend where we need to take it to be in, for best practice, to make sure that we're set up properly, which I like that aspect of it the most. And then they will submit a proposal based on that of what it's going to take for them to get it going live and the time frame that it will do that. And the whole benefit to this would be the fact that they're going to come in, they're going to spearhead it, they're going to be the liaison with Tyler. Things will get done faster, and they do this regularly, so they know what they're doing.
Well, what I'm hearing in this is we're allowing you to be able to use your skill set as the outside auditor, so they can actually look at what they're proposing to you to be able to take a step back and make sure that we're getting what we need from our financial package rather than designing it from the start to finish.
And not only what we need, but that we're utilizing it to its fullest potential.
Right.
There's quite a bit that I'm
modules.
afraid that we may miss without that expertise coming in.
Yep. I guess this is a discussion we had in budget too, is 5,000 assessment. I mean, which is, it's great to get an assessment, don't get me wrong, but I mean, if this comes through with a number that we don't have budgeted, basically that assessment really doesn't mean a lot because we don't have any financial money to do it, right? I mean, that's one of the things we don't have. And I mean, I would only assume the hourly rate is $100, $150 an hour maybe, and you're talking 3 people for several months. We're talking, not a few thousand, but $70,000 to $100,000. It's just really discouraging that if this happens in multiple places, this really wasn't described out front when you bought the package. This is going to be a $100,000 startup fee. I mean, that's
Yeah.
discouraging. You know?
I think the thing here that we have to look back at, and it's not about placing blame, but it certainly is about not having a clear understanding. The person who was doing the negotiating at that time when we were being presented multiple packages to replace Trio, I don't think that person had a clear grasp of what it was that he was being, as far as, I think he had a clear grasp of the package, but he didn't have a clear grasp of what it would take to get it into place. And so I think that being said, we certainly didn't have an honest picture of transition time and resource, the amount of allocated resources that would be needed. Because I think that would have certainly allowed us to prepare a little bit more from a budget perspective to say, we need to go out and find somebody who can come in and be that spearhead to take over all of this. Because we just don't have the manpower to dedicate 2 to 3 people for the next 2 to 3 years to bring this thing online.
If we even can, and if it's even practical for us to do it even when we do hire it out. I mean, that's the question. I mean, to me, someone pulled me aside the other day and was asking a straightforward question about it, and they said, how come it's taking us so long to get our people trained to use the system? I said, there's nothing, from my interpretation, what I've learned in a very short period of time, it's not the idea of training people to use the system, it's the idea of building the system. You know what I mean? So even once you get the system built, then you still got to train people how to use it. And I try to use something very simple like QuickBooks. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people buy QuickBooks. I think it's a great package, but they don't realize you got to put all your information in the QuickBooks and learn how to use it to be able to do it. That's kind of the same idea. We need to take everything that we have and manually input every number that you see in all the information and put it into the system and build the system and then be trained how to use it, which is a big task.
Well, it's the equivalence of you've been speaking English all your life and somebody says, okay, I'm going to teach you French now, and they're going to start speaking to you in French and you have no clue what that is. You'll eventually get there by equating, this is this is that, but it takes a long time to get there. What we're doing is getting somebody to come in and interpret for us, allowing our folks to take their expertise in the areas that they know about Lisbon and translate that to people who know the expertise on the Tyler product and how to implement it in a way that would best suit our needs here. Because what we're doing is we're asking these people here to wear 2 hats and do so in an inefficient manner. 10 to 15 hours a week isn't going to get it done.
Well, that's just it. I mean, I can continue to do it, and I'm happy to do so, but it's going to take another year, 2 years,
They'll
possibly
have a
even
new
3 years
package out
before I
before you
can
get
give it
it
up
out.
and
Yeah.
going.
We'll get it implemented by the time the package expires and we're done paying for it.
Exactly.
And we're on a yearly basis, right, exactly.
Yeah.
So this to me is the most expedited option to get it done accurately, correctly, and get us trained to use it efficiently and to its fullest potential.
So let's just ask the question, if I could, if we put the 5,000 out there and we come out with a figure, say it's even conservative 50,000, where do we get the funding from that to actually move that forward? Is that something we'd need to allocate?
The recommendation would be undesignated.
It would be undesignated. Is that actually proper use for that? I mean, there is.
Yep.
Okay.
We've got
Financial implication, yeah.
Okay. Just curious.
Yep.
How much has this program costed us so far?
How much have we expended, or how much are we actually liable for? Because we do have a contract. The total contract was $687,000 over a 7-year period. There is a buyout, so if we were to walk away, we'd have to pay, I don't know the exact figure, but we would have to pay a portion of that total contract price. We are currently entering into the 2nd year of that project. So I want to say, 70, maybe 150 into it.
And we're just paying for an assessment for them to...
This outside firm that's it. The $4,400 is just for them to come in, look at what we have, and look at what still needs to be done in order for us to be using the system.
So Munis won't pay. They won't do anything to help us get set up, even though we're paying them
Well,
$650,000.
they have eaten $40,000 in implementation costs because of some miscommunications that had gone on. So they have taken that into their, goodwill or whatnot. But as far as conversion, they do a bunch of that work, but it still requires us to do stuff.
So does their assessment include anything associated with the estimated timeline?
Yes, the assessment will, and I can provide this letter. This is their proposal for the assessment. It will include, they will develop a draft assessment memo, which will include the planned scope of the implementation, the key work completed that's already done, the status of the configurations, conversions, interfaces, and all that, the work remaining that still needs to be done prior to go live, and a comparison of like what the status is now if we were to continue going like we are now versus using them. And then other key considerations such as resources, adjustments to communications with Tyler and timelines, and et cetera. So it sounds like it's going to be pretty comprehensive. They're going to do initial project planning. They're going to review existing documentation. They're going to be here on site to conduct fact-finding meetings, and then they're going to draft the memo.
So they're not going to do any type of implementation?
At this point, no. This is just them looking at the system and what it would take for them to get us to go live. Yep.
It's a bad taste in my mouth knowing that we purchased such a hefty program without clear comprehension of how this was all going to play out, and now we're asking taxpayers to pay more for an assessment and then to pay more for implementation later on.
Honestly, if I had other information when I first started, I would have recommended this avenue right in the start. It was my understanding that this was something that I was going to be able to do in my spare time. My spare time has been on my laptop at night, 4 or 5 hours a night, and it's just not.
And
I don't know if it was said or what, but really there needs to be a full-time project manager to get this done, and I just I don't have the expertise or the time.
May I?
Please.
I mean, my recommendation without a doubt would be the idea to do the assessment so we know where we're at. I mean, at this point, unfortunately,
I've been building the system, and I couldn't tell you where, just because I don't have the experience in building a system like this before, I couldn't tell you if we're sitting good or we're sitting bad.
Well, the information you put
the
in,
assessment could come back and say, hey, you're almost there.
I just feel like we should never have purchased a program and expected somebody from within to build it. It should have been the company we purchased it from the very word go. Instead of putting, we bit off more than we could chew.
Well, I think that's abundantly clear, but I also think that the way that was presented to us by the person who was leading, the point person on this particular, that person was negotiating in good faith and came to the council on multiple occasions and said that it would be something that they would be able to manage and get implemented. So I think when we talk about, I think what was presented to council, we made the best decision based on what we knew. So there's no good reason for us to come back to this now and not be disappointed, because what we were told and what's actually happened are two different things altogether. So that stinks, but it doesn't change the fact that the whole reason that we got there was because our current system is failing. I liken it to we use a system that has it's a boat with about 7 holes in it, and we don't have enough resources to plug the holes to keep us afloat. We got to get out of the boat that we're in. So we're moving to something that it's not pretty, it's sticky, it's been messy, and quite frankly, it sucks because we spent a lot of money and we haven't been able to make a lot of progress. That's no fault of any person in this building. I know you guys have been bending over backwards to try to make it work. So now we're at this crossroads of saying we know we're not going to ditch this project. There's a poison pill in there. It's going to make it harder for us to get out, and we're still in the same boat where we're using an inadequate system. So what do? We got to look at least, at the very least, taking a look at this, knowing that we're going to have some cost associated with it. But the end game would be that we're going to be better off when we get through this migration. It stinks.
At the very least, this assessment will give us better information with which to make a decision whether we continue to go forward or we say
the baseline where we're at.
Yep.
The other part of this too is from my understanding, I mean, we're still going to have Trio in house because we still operate some of our modules, if you want to call it that, as far as for assessing and for registration through Trio. So do we still have an open dialogue with Trio as far as them coming in to try to resolve some of the issues that we have? I mean, because if it's not,
they're not going to come in.
But I mean, isn't it like 70 to 80% of municipalities in Maine still use Trio? So I mean, they have to. You would think that they would have to be. I mean, I thought they're even coming out with a new system. So I would think that if they're not going away, it's not. I hate to think they're referring and saying that we need to go with something because Trio's we got to get rid of it, because we're really not. We just got to figure out how to make Trio work, and hopefully they're making it work. And the idea of implement the other system, so we're going to be working 2 systems.
I can remember one of the main reasons that we considered Munis so heavily out of all the products was the fact that Trio's response time to trouble ticket was absolutely abysmal. They just don't respond. And so you have us trying to do workarounds with shoestrings, bubble gum, and duct tape so we can get our customers what they need, because we're not getting it. And if that's changed, please,
No, it hasn't.
please tell me, because I'm going with
some
that.
of the issues we're having lately involve Roundtable, and they have the same issues with response times. Some of the things they have to rely on Trio, and they're having the same issues we are.
So just so everybody's aware of
They're
what
an IT company.
Roundtable is. Roundtable is a third-party IT support unit that we use. So these are folks that are in the know when it comes to IT and know how to grease the skids and get people to get responding back to you, and they can't get responses. So us from this end trying to do our jobs, trying to do your jobs, and then one of your staff has a trouble, you put in an IT ticket to those folks, and you never hear from them again until you start banging the drum, and even then.
We are actually making a formal complaint to them, typically not just into their technical people, but into hopefully management, I would hope, right at Trio. I mean, hopefully it's one of those things where we're not just actually waiting in time and complaining internally and not actually putting out the full level of who we can complain to at Trio. I mean, I can't imagine Trio communicating with as many municipalities as they are. I'm not sure if they just look at Lisbon as not being an important factor and treating other people differently, but I would hope that we're actually communicating with Trio itself the same displeasure that we are just in this environment here. You mean
I can tell you a lot of the municipalities are having the same problem, and I know some of the managers got together and they were going to go and send a letter to New York.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's happening.
But you
touched on it a little bit, but I would imagine too that in the industry, they understand when people are moving on. If we've already made the commitment to Munis, then the likelihood of them putting us as top priority on their radar is probably low, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, why would you not think that, right?
Right. If we're no longer going to be a customer, or a very limited one.
Yeah. I mean, at the least, I think that we need to do assessments. As much as I hate to spend the money on assessment, we need to know where we're at. You know what I mean? And if they come through, and to me, if they're looking at,
But how much more money are we going to throw at this?
To me,
That's my question.
They say something.
We've spent way too much money on a program that is, we were promised all the bells and whistles, and I'm still sitting here waiting. And I mean, I'm not going to keep on listening to open promises that never end up happening.
I understand that, but what I would actually point to is that the budget discussion for the finance, when we talked about this item, I backed our finance director into a corner. Is it better to proceed forward with Munis or to scrap the entire topic? I am leveraging her opinion. The fact is it is better to move forward than it is to flounder. So I would advocate that we actually support her in her position. It is what it is, but it is the least of the evils than to consider going back to a starting point at this point.
But I think the public also is owed the opportunity to know at what cost is this going to cost us.
That's all we get there.
The listening public is actually hearing it live.
That assessment.
Right, but an assessment, all we're hearing is $4,400 for an assessment.
Once that assessment comes back, they'll have that total.
Yeah.
Right. But then at what point, then, okay, if we decide that we're not going to proceed with it, we might as well burn $4,400.
Yeah, but what we've invested
and everything
already,
else that we've already invested into it.
I think what we're saying, though, is that listening to what our current finance director has given for an opinion, that she would have agreed to move forward with this software. The only difference would have been she would have brought this company on board sooner, so that our migration, where we would be now, would be much more favorable than where we're at. So it's not that the product's bad or the product, the folks who build the product are bad and they've done us wrong. It's the exact opposite. It's the fact that they've come in, and while we did have some hiccups with Munis as far as communication, it wasn't because they're bad people. It's because they expected us to be doing a lot more than we could ever do.
Yep.
And that's where the crux of the problem lies, is that what we were told by the previous finance director was that that person would be able to manage all of that and get all of that, implement all that stuff built so that it would be easy for Munis to come in and just drop in what they needed to do. Well, that's nice to hear that, but that person's in the wind, fell on her. And then once she started to realize what it was that their expectation at Munis was, it's not a great situation for anybody involved. But at the end of the day, what's our alternative? Going back to Trio, sitting in a lifeboat that's sinking, and then we have to go back out and bid for everybody again, and we've taken one player off the board now. And I remember correctly, I think it was Trio, Munis, and one other company, and that was it. That's what we got for folks that were vetted and worth talking to council with. So if we're going to pull them off the board, we're leaving Trio and whatever other person comes to.
And you're still paying the bailout money
Yeah, we're still
associated
going to
with
go
the
through a
contract.
migration, and we're going to spend more money. So I understand what your frustration is, Cassie, and I, just like you, I'm worried about.
I mean, I think we planned improperly. We put all of our eggs in one basket, and we put all of our, rather, I shouldn't say we, because I didn't vote for it, but.
Well, that's fine. I mean, certainly, I'll tell you, I voted for it, and I still feel very strongly for it, and I'll stand here and say I think we should move forward.
Right, but we sat here and we allowed one person to say, I can do this, not thinking for the future, what if he disappears?
Well, I don't remember you asking that question. I know I didn't either, and I know they didn't either.
Are you going to disappear?
All of us. But the fact of the matter is,
Not intentionally.
Which I appreciate what you're saying. If your concern is as concerned as it is right now, why didn't you ask that question?
I've had a similar conversation with her. It was about the same tone.
It was going to take
But
I think we could
all
hash all day long about how we got here.
I don't think we're covering
now we
new
need
ground.
to focus on
Exactly.
the solution, how to move forward.
I couldn't agree more, Chris.
What do we need as far as for it to actually move forward with that? I mean, that's within the realm
your
of
permission to go ahead and have this assessment.
Do we have the $5,000 to pay for it this budget
Yeah.
season?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's no impact on next year's budget. You need authorization
With
to proceed
this assessment?
Yes.
No.
I-
As of
I would
right
en-
now, next year's
I would
budget is
entertain
not
a
affected.
motion.
I'll make that motion.
A second.
All in favor on that motion, Okay.
All those opposed?
please.
And I apologize you've been put in this predicament.
Oh,
because
hey,
I know
you know
didn't
what?
sign up for it by any means. I mean, the idea of doing your daily job is hard enough. Forget about the idea of trying to implement a system that you don't know. I mean, it's challenging. It really is. I mean, it's impossible.
I know.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Yes.
Don't
But
go
hey,
away because you're not
get
done.
there.
Don't
Thank
go
you.
away. Don't go away.
Go away.
You're not done.
Okay, I'm still here.
Yes. Now the question associated with anything for the fund balance allocation that does have a budgetary impact.
From the ones that we've already suggested? Or are we
No,
just talking IT?
no, quite specifically, your recommendation on this was the fact that you would take it from unfunded or the
From
fund balance.
undesignated, yeah.
Yeah. Do we have the luxury to be able to do so without changing what you have recommended to us that we're going to cover later in the dialogue?
Basically, would we still be above that percentage that
Yes.
we need to be
Yeah.
in place, right?
There's a sheet.
Yeah, is that the 76,712 at the bottom?
Yeah, that's right. That's not in any of my totals up above, other than it's already been designated for projects, and the projects are completed, and that's what's left over that can be redesignated. And we will have some more left over from the server project, that $50,000 project.
There's about 10,000, I think,
I
left.
think we'll have about 10,000. That's not included in this figure. I want to wait till we get the two final bills in.
Yeah, that's another piece of that 150 because we've already done the hardware upgrades to be able to green light any of this discussion.
Right. Yep.
You would just have to reallocate that 76.
So there is a potential there as long as it's
It's still doable. That's what I needed to hear associated with that. I'm the cold fish numbers guy in the room, and I would make a motion at this point to actually allocate 75,000 to this purpose once we know the balance of that, so it's part of this budget process. That would be my motion.
I just have one thing I'd like to add to that, and that is, I think we do the assessment, but I think we take a look at it because I'm leveraging these professional folks have done 20 plus of these migrations. So what I say is they come into us and they say, all right, here's where you're at, here's all the modules that you have, here's where you can be, and they put out this number. Say, I'm just going to throw a number in the air. Say they put 100,000 out there. I say we go back to them and we say, okay, great. Out of all these modules, what are the
go-tos?
Yeah, talk to me about these are the ones that we need to stay afloat, operating, because that's where your expertise comes in. Now you can tell them, here's what we do day-to-day ops.
Yep.
Here's the big picture stuff. Here's what we'd like to be if I'm looking for all the bells and whistles Cadillac model.
Yep.
And then we can implement based on that. Yep. So if we have to do this piecemeal style,
Right.
we get what we need for to be up and running and working efficiently, But we can also manage cost. And I think that's the bigger
Financials
thing.
and payroll become your priorities.
That makes
You know
sense?
I'd just
That,
like
that
the assessment,
immediately came to
hopefully.
mind, financials and payroll.
If the assessment hopefully will actually paint that picture for us. of
Right.
what-
Where I was going with my motion is the fact is I'm hopeful to actually not expend that, to your point. And the fact is, but at least we've covered it in this to be the worst case scenario. That figure is committed. It's moved from the undesignated to a specific purpose, much like the fire and library upgrades that didn't come to fruition, that if we don't expend it, it goes back into fund balance. But we're not leveraging it, raising more funds locally.
So we move that 74, we allocate that 75 for this exact task, and we find out it's going to be in the, and I'm just using the number, 50. So that 25 can then be moved back to undesignated?
Correct.
Good. So I wanna
That's
make sure.
exactly where that 76
Yep, no,
came in.
Just designated on paper, it doesn't go away unless you
Stay in the
spend
same
any of
place,
it,
we're
just
just-
stays
yeah.
right there, it's on paper until it's spent.
That's fair.
And that's what's left over several projects.
That's the
so.
way I understood it, but I want
And
to
it's
say it out
already
loud and
out
get
of
somebody else to
my-
say yes.
Fund balance figure at the top because it had already been allocated, so.
Right. And to the point that is being heard clearly, the situation stinks, but that is the least budgetary impact that we can actually have come out of this for a resolution.
Yep.
Karen, you had a question.
I'm sorry. I hate for Karen Paradise, Vice Chair of the Planning Board. Just a question. Oh, sorry. I want to step aside for you.
Okay, sorry, don't want to make it that official. Karen Paradise, Vice Chair of the Planning Board. Just a question as to what penalty we would have. We are in a 7-year contract,
Yeah,
and we are in the second year.
we are in the second year of it.
Okay,
It is
and
a
what would-
percentage of the total contract remaining.
Can you
So
tell us what that would
off the
be?
top of my head, no, I can get that for you, though.
But it is something,
Yep,
because
it is.
that's
I want
always
to say 80, right around 80%, but again, don't hold me to
80%
that.
of the remaining contract.
I have
Because
to look
sometimes
up.
it is better to, stop the hemorrhaging.
Sure.
But if the
Definitely look at
5,000
that as
is to, the kid with the, the finger in the dike, that's still
you still could-
5,000 that we're spending.
But we still have the problem.
Still got to figure what Plan B
We
would be
do,
at that point.
but I think people would be curious to know what the penalty is. So if you could get us that, I think that would be awesome. Thank you.
Certainly will.
I have a motion. I made it.
And Norm was the first one to speak, so you would be the second.
I think his was different, but I think we can, I know what you were talking about. I'll make the motion to move forward on the $4,400 for the assessment.
That's already been, that's
So
already been
I
decided.
thought that's what you was talking
What
about.
I'm asking
Allocate
is
the
to actually,
75,000.
Allocate 75,000, I'll make that motion as well.
we have a first and we have a second. Good.
You're the second?
Yep.
Okay.
Personally, I'd prefer to hear the results of the assessment before I voted to allocate the money.
Okay.
It still can't be
That's kind
spent.
of where I am too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
It still couldn't be
it's
spent
not
until it
gonna,
came
it's not gonna
back
be
forward
spent. We
to
at
us.
least earmarked it. Absolutely right.
Yeah, all
Not
you're
saying-
doing is
And it's
earmark.
already out of,
Questions that I just
Yeah.
did, because I wanted to understand if this is just going to sit in undesignated and all we're doing is
Right.
saying, question mark, we may use this.
and it's already out of
It's already,
undesignated?
right, because it's been allocated to other projects.
Because
and
I
those projects
completely
are
agree with you.
completed, and
that
that's
We haven't turned the
remaining
screw to know
balance.
what the hemorrhaging is. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can come back to
But we're
that
not,
assessment.
but we're not giving any approval to spend it.
No,
Absolutely
you're
not.
just,
I
you're
gotcha.
just earmarking it, so it can't be earmarked for something else. But once you hear whatever that,
Once I get the proposal back, I'll bring it back.
right.
in
Then
front of
we need
you
to
council.
can
decide what we're gonna
unearmark
do.
it or whatever you
gotcha.
want to do with it.
And maybe I'm just kind of overlooking this or maybe looking at too much, but I would assume that if the figure does come through at 50 or 75,000, we have to do a traditional, go out to bid, put it out there to multiple companies, not just one. It would have to go out to bid. I mean, I would
Yeah.
only assume,
Oh,
right?
definitely.
Because
Yep.
that falls into the same sort of, any other standard out to bid, anything
Yeah.
over that threshold.
Not saying there would be anybody else that would be able to do it as well, but it's still something of that type of
I will
figure.
reach out to other companies.
have to be
I'm
there.
not entirely sure that they'd be willing to without an initial cost like this, which
Yeah.
we're not going to undertake, obviously. But once we have that assessment, I will be able to prepare an RFP and get bids
May
for
not get
that.
anybody else, but we did do our due diligence.
But then
and
we've
have
done our
to,
due
yeah.
diligence.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, it's a good point, Fran. We have to go
Yep.
through that exercise because we're required.
It will be done.
Anything else?
So did we vote on that last
No,
piece?
we did not. We had a first and a second. I want to make sure we didn't do anything on the discussion until everybody at least finished what they had for thought processes. All in favor? Opposed?
5-1.
Thank you. Now you can sit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next.
Order 2018-120 MMA, Vice President and Executive Committee slate of officers.
What do we have?
Did it look like to me that they were presenting this information to you, and at some point they would
I didn't see
do a
anything
voting ballot later?
I didn't see anything that required action. Just that, yeah, we acknowledge we read it.
Info?
There's no ballot now, but I think they'll prepare one.
Yes.
Yeah, they
But
have
they're
put
looking
the
at
nominees down.
nominations. Yeah.
Just the informational type thing?
And nominees now could be
Right.
submitted, I think, for
So-
Vice President and Executive Committee officers.
We acknowledge
There's
receipt.
forms in there.
All right. Moving right along.
Okay, and then next is Order 2018-121, the DOT federal drug and alcohol testing policy.
So I have a new one in front of you to replace the one that's in the packet. It doesn't change the content of the policy because the policy is written under the federal guidelines, but it just changed some of the terms because the one I sent to you earlier looked too much like a private company versus a public entity. So we fixed that, thanks to Alan. So this is not replacing an existing policy because I can't locate one. So this is a brand new policy, and it's a policy that we have to have for our CDL employees that are required to be in safety-sensitive functions. We have to have a written policy, substance abuse and alcohol testing policy on hand. And this policy goes along with the federal guidelines. And the feds mandate this policy.
Have you read it? Come right up to the podium there, sir. Trial by fire.
Question prior to that. Does
Sure.
this,
Tom Martin, Public Works Director.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Or evening, I guess now.
as far as the other departments, like the police department, stuff like that, does something like this have to go through their union to be approved prior to us approving it?
No.
No,
because
it does not.
It's federally mandated, and they're all in the policy. They're all doing everything now. They're all being random or pre-employment drug tested
That's a
right
great.
now.
That was the question I was going to
Yeah.
land that too. From your experience, what do you see in this in content, and would you support what we're actually have in front of us?
Yeah, of course I would. That's, I did find an old policy somewhere in the files, but I don't think it was ever adopted. So I brought it to Megan's attention that looking for the new one, and that's the one they found. So, and it mirrors all the other ones. It's really, there's a lot of boilerplate stuff in there. So to be in the drug testing circuit, we need to have that in place.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Have we ever, in your history, looking back, have done any testing within a municipality? I mean, that's maybe a private question, I don't know, but, I mean, is this, if there wasn't a policy in place, I guess the question is ever federally mandated that actually it's done? I mean, is there a criteria that so much testing is done in a year or
Yes,
not?
we're in a random drug testing pool with the Maine Motor Transport Association.
So there has been some done in the past. So it's not like we've never been without.
Oh, no, we've been
and I just
all
that's the
along,
point
yeah.
I want to make. We are still
This is
following.
nothing new for us.
Exactly, we're
Yes,
still
yeah.
following the federal
Right.
guidelines. This more or less just makes a more actual written documentation in our file.
Right.
Okay.
And the question that I was following up with where you were going with that is there's nothing from a budgetary or an operationally that is in this policy that we don't already have in place.
There's nothing.
No, we have a line item for drug
Testing, yeah.
Yeah.
that we're
So we
doing
have
right
that piece, but there's
No,
none of the services after the fact, because I know there was language associated with treatment programs
Yes,
and those kinds of things.
EAP,
That's
Yeah.
already in place. That this is just formalizing that process.
right. There, if we did have a positive test, there are requirements that we have to do as employers. There's a whole process that employee would have to go through, and we are obligated to pay a portion of that. So
Could be ongoing long
we
term,
didn't
yeah.
have to put that in here, but we have to,
You don't have a choice. It's actually
yeah, we don't
mandated
have a
to.
choice.
The-
Not for the first
Yeah.
offense.
The other question I have is, with this actually, so to speak, being a new policy, so to speak, is this something you need to, does HR need to bring this does each employee need to actually sign off on this?
Every employee will sign off on it, and they'll get all the information on the drugs and the alcohol as well, yes.
Okay, thank you. Some people actually see this stuff as really kind of drastic, so I was just kind of curious.
Well, yeah, that would
It's
be
not, but
what's the blowback if the fact is somebody doesn't sign?
I think it's in their job description.
That's what I'm saying. So we have the leverage to be able to. That's where I was going with that.
Yeah, and we require all of our drivers to have a CDL license, so
It's a condition for that
it's a
piece too.
condition for employment.
Yep.
And they're all in the drug testing pool
Pool
now.
already.
They get randomly pooled, and any new applicants have to be tested before we can put them on, before hired.
Legal background. What are we missing?
It's a standard. My husband has to follow the same thing.
I just
It's a standard.
Okay. Okay. I just I know we vetted a lot of different things. That's what.
If an existing driver has or gets some sort of condition that requires them to have medicinal marijuana, how do we handle that?
It's not regulated under. You'd be breaking federal guidelines because DOT is
The federal piece,
Federal
okay,
cost.
that's fine.
Yep.
That's great, that's what I understood.
Doesn't matter if you're in a state that it's legal or not. You're still mandated by the federal law.
So when the federal law changes, if it changes, then it'll get
Then,
sticky.
exactly.
That's fine.
make a motion.
Thank you.
I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Order passed.
Thank you.
6-0.
Thank you.
Was that second, Mr. Councilor Lund?
No,
Ms.
Crawford.
Okay. Somewhere over there. Next item, other business, council committee reports.
School.
I didn't make it to the school this week.
Planning. They didn't have a meeting, so it's coming up later in the month, correct? Yeah, right, because we had a report from the last one, and I recapped that one, correct. Water is not here. LDC.
A lot of good stuff happened, of course. I mean, with you can see down in the sidewalks, everybody's been kind of paying attention to what's happening in Lisbon Falls, and I'm sure we'll be getting a question soon when that's going to happen in the village. So hopefully that will all the funding will come through and everything will be all set there and we can move forward. The group is actually looking at a couple of different things. We had the pleasure of actually had Diane and the new Public Works director actually at our last meeting where we talked about some new stuff that we want to do down in villages, but also a new program to change the benches down on Main Street. So I know the town's looking into that right now. The benches have been there quite weathered. They've been long enough that no one could remember really when they were put in at that point in time. So we're going to work on trying to do some small things to make some improvements and also some big things. So I think there's a lot of good things going on. So if anybody has an interest or wants input, please feel free and follow the town website to see when we're meeting. And our next meeting, I believe, is a walk of the village to actually kind of look at the different ideas and what's down there and to see what we can do for improvement. So good stuff happening, a lot of stuff happening, so it's a good time to be part of things changing.
Conservation. They met last week and they are working on a plan for education on invasive species and what that ultimately means as part of the goals that are in the budget for the coming year. So trying to get that information out to the community. So you'll be seeing some of that shortly. Recreation.
I was unable to attend last night's meeting.
County is shelved until September. Library.
Nothing to report except that the summer reading program is starting up soon, so get your kids involved.
I got some wheat paste murals that are going to be going up soon.
Yeah.
Yes.
The library did receive a $1,000 gift as part of an estate from Ernest Smith. Yep. And I just wanted to say thank you to the family and to her for that. It'll be put to good use in the town.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Town manager.
So Friday, we're closing on 241 Lisbon Street. We'll be the owners of the former Graziano's lot.
Woohoo!
And then Roger's here, and I just wanted to bring up that we had a meeting last Friday with the ATV clubs and to discuss the ordinance, but primarily the map that we put together. There are some issues with that we're going to fix. And I think that's where most of the complaints stem from. So we've got a plan in place. When Dennis gets back, we're going to be working on that map. And And we're hoping too, not just to get the access road map, that we'll end up with a really nice ATV trail map as well. And I don't know that we need to come back at this point to update the ordinance. I think if we fix the map, that's going to take care of most of the problems, but I think there will be an update coming later on for the ordinance.
Open lines of communication with the residents affected, and they are all on board?
Yeah, they have been, the one that's complaining the most has thanked me via email, so.
I know that one person sort of was the
Catalyst.
conduit for the rest of them, so that's why I want to make sure. I figured it was leaking down to the rest of the folks if that person was being communicated with,
Right.
and I know
I've been
the case.
via email, and I kept her updated and let her know what happened after the meeting. I don't know if you want to add anything, Roger?
Yeah, you do. Come on up, sir.
I'm putting you on the spot.
I think it's good that everybody's working together to try to resolve. And
Yeah, it was 3 weeks before June 1st, and that was what was killing. Yeah. And there was the timing, and when Dennis explained that, it says obviously there's some improvement because you guys are off to a slippery start, and I know that isn't what the trail riders wanted to have happen. Right. Beautiful. Next. What else?
Budget discussions?
You ready for the budget?
Hurts for a minute.
So I passed out some information for you tonight, and if you could take this first page. This is the kind of the overview of where we stand right now since our last budget meeting. So as it stands right now, the increase on just the municipal budget is $660,806. The county and the school have not changed; they're the same. The revenue sharing is up about $31,000, and our other revenues are up $132,741.
Damn.
And the additional school subsidy, I think, between that and the Betty reimbursement, that's probably going to be a wash. So I don't even want to include that in my calculations at this point. The homestead reimbursement, if you notice, that's quite a big increase over last year. That's because we're going to be getting 62.5% back from the state instead of 50%. And then we actually received quite a few more homestead exemptions this year as well. So that's increased. It's kind of interesting to look back to 2015, how much we got for a homestead exemption reimbursement from the state versus what we plan to get for fiscal year 19. So all of that plays into what your commitment is going to be. And what I don't know at this time, like I said, is the Betty reimbursement, and I don't know what the new values are. That all will be done at the final hour when we do the commitment. So I think the impact to the taxes will be better. I mean, it's not going to be as bad as we thought, but I know we're going to gain some more value just on all the new houses we have, but how that's going to play out, I don't know at this time. And I was hoping to have more information on that, but other circumstances prevented that. So, and then if you go to the third page, fourth page in is your unassigned fund balance. This is the newest proposal. Are the things I have listed here, about $475,199 worth of proposals or recommendations to come from unassigned fund balance. The way I got the budget down to $660,000 is I took the debt service, the lease purchase agreements, and I want to pay all of those off in fiscal year 19. So that saved $195,438 in the budget. But by paying that off, you also have to pay off the payment for fiscal year 20 and 21. So that currently in the budget, there are no lease purchase payments. I want to pay them all off through fund balance. The only thing we're going to have are our bonds. That's the only other way I could get this budget down, because everything else is personnel and operating. There's just nothing else in there to lower the budget. And by doing that, you're not going to see those items appear in future budgets because they're going to be gone.
Now, those early payments also had an interest savings.
They will. This is the worst case scenario. These are the actual payment amounts plus the interest amounts. We pay them early, those figures will be reduced.
Significantly.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much, but, you know, Lydia, you probably didn't. It'll depend on when we wouldn't pay them off until after we started getting our tax money in, but, yeah, you're absolutely right. We'll save quite a lot in some interest. And then I have, so that's all I have right now. Typically, we do 16% of the general operating budget we leave on hand, but I dropped that down to 15%, and we cannot go below 12. So we still have between 12 and 15, but I still think 15 is it's healthy and it's conservative. So some of the items, I want to take one of those. So some of the items in our budget this year that are impacting the increase, we all know about the Lisbon emergency stipend. We know about the hydrant rental and our bond payment on the road bond. And then we have the county tax. All four of those together come to $431,000 of a $720,000 increase. That $720,000 includes the county tax. So $431,000 are uncontrolled costs that we can't do anything about. So that leaves $289,306. The new positions that we have in the budget that you've already approved come to $262,921. If we didn't approve any of those budgets, then we would be looking at like $26,384 over the controllable costs. Our municipal budget increase as it stands right now is 8%. The county is 9.5%, and the school is 6.5%. I do want to mention in the last couple of years, council has done a really good job at funding the paving projects at $425,000. That's still in this budget this year, and that gets us a lot of work done. So I think it's great that we should continue to fund that because everybody complains about the roads and everybody travels on the roads. Another impact to the budget is the IT munis. As you know, that I mentioned earlier, I had a mistake in this current year budget. I didn't budget enough. So that's why you'll see the increase. And then the cashiering that we're going to be doing that we thought we had and we don't have added another $10,000 to the budget. The total wage increase over fiscal year 18 is $407,297, and the benefit increase over fiscal year 18 is $217,848. So the total proposed budget with wages and benefits are $4,991,232, which is about 56% of our total budget. I just thought those are statistical figures you might be interested in. The new positions with benefits, the assessing part-time, the 2 police positions, the recreation department's 2 positions, and then the IT comm center changes, those total $262,921. My other idea, and what I'd really like you to contemplate tonight, is we just recently had a front office person, a part-time person, resign. And if you took the pay for that 20-hour position and added it to the assessing part-time position, all we'd have to do is add another $25,793 to make that a full-time position that would complement each other at that end of the building, the front office and the assessing. I think it's really needed at this time for what we're dealing with. Just the number of people that we're dealing with, the town's growing. We have less people working now than we did a few years ago. And it's also going to go towards our goal for when Kathy does decide to retire. And we want to have somebody in that assessing position, or at least an assessing assistant full-time. It's going to be it's going to help having a part-time position in that office. But for when she does get ready to retire, I just don't know if that part-time position would ever want to go full-time. I don't know. I just think we have an opportunity where we just had a resignation to make a full-time position with minimal impact to the budget. Before, when I proposed it, it was going to be a little over 40,000. So the municipal budget increase is 660,806. The county tax increase is 59,842 for a total of 726,448, less your revenue increase of 284,725. So just on the municipal side, the net budget increase is about 435,923 before we have any new value calculated and before we know what our Betty reimbursement's going to be.
So the figure goes down from there.
Yeah.
Consideration from anybody on the suggestion of the 2 part-timers to a full-time position?
If I
Please.
could, knowing what's going on out front right now, especially this week, it's when we run the circumstances, well, we have people on vacation and possible people out that just don't have the opportunity to make it into work. We have an office that's empty, so I think we need to figure out how to resolve that. Mm-hmm. So if the idea of bringing a full-time person on, which, I mean, I truly feel that you can actually get a more committed, more grounded person as a full-time position than a part-time position. So if that's what it takes to make that work, I'm sure anybody coming into the office for the next couple of weeks to try to get information would probably vouch the idea that we need some more people there. So,
and I think you're right. I think you will get more commitment from a full-time versus a part-time.
Well, most people that are looking for part-time work are doing that for a reason. It's not because
they're not making a career out of it.
Correct.
Usually. Yeah.
More likely to get somebody with assessing skill from a previous role somewhere.
Yep.
Or at least get considered by those folks. And then the fact that they didn't like doing it as a full-time person, they consider themselves, I can do this on a part-time basis.
It's a very specialized field as well. So that's, and not having somebody in there right now that doesn't know how to do that is, it doesn't put us in a good position, but we have an opportunity to fix that.
In the interviewing process, it'll also allow for any candidate to consider that there is an opportunity to slowly roll into this position to understand if this is the right place for me too. But there is a long-term plan or goal from our end, at least, to say we're looking for somebody to eventually.
Right. Goes towards the succession planning.
Do you have enough educational money in that for professional development to bring, if you do bring someone on, to actually be given some of the base training they need to actually fulfill
I'll
that?
look at that.
I mean, that would be key.
I probably would add some to that. Yeah. And that 25,000 is worst case. I mean, if you end up getting somebody that
it's the benefits. If you're not hiring 2 part-timers, you're hiring it and just adjusting the benefit piece.
Right. Depending on how they select, what they select for benefits, that figure could go down.
Is there
anybody want to make a motion on that?
I'll make the motion to convert 2 part-time positions to 1 full-time position.
I'll take a second.
I'll do a second on that.
Any other discussion on the topic?
I just would feel very strongly that if we are considering that, the person actually is, a job description is written very well, so it's actually deemed as that's the roles they play, and don't actually start filtering out and not really come. Sometimes we have a way of actually spreading people out through the office, and not we do it on purpose. It's just because there's always needs in other places that if that's what we're hiring a person for a specific reason, that job description is very detailed for that.
And I know these were part-time positions, but to speak to what Fern was saying before, which is we're in essence losing a body in theory. So in the upfront, so we want to make sure that we're not going to see a discount in the amount of service that the constituents of this community receive.
No, because 20 hours is still going to be over there, and we don't have the assessing part-time right now, so we're really not going to. We're going to gain a half a person.
When that person takes vacation, though, then it's 2 offices that are on the light. And that's what I'm kind of going towards. So it's not going to be often, but it could be.
Right.
So we just want to keep that in mind, make sure that we have a plan that makes sense.
You said this 25,000 was worst case?
Yes.
Anything else? All in favor?
6-0. Order passed.
We still will have time to review the revenues. We may be able to adjust those up more as we go through the month of June before we do have the public hearing.
Okay.
I do know that while we're still on budget, we have the public hearing scheduled for the 19th. We're not going to be able to do that because I didn't get the ad ready for the paper, and by charter we have to have 2 ads in the paper before the public hearing.
Is there any chance of making the 26th? I know that was a
That's
discussion.
what we're trying to. We won't know until tomorrow.
The question I would ask of the council, then framing that, I would advocate that if we're going to hold 2 meetings in the month, that we actually move the 19th to the 26th. Does that cause an inconvenience rather than creating another that we have to show up for? That would be the way I would approach it, is move the 19th meeting to the 26th.
Yep.
I think that should work.
Anybody seeing any hardship?
So if we can do it on the 26th, my recommendation would have the public hearing and then vote the same night on the budget.
Right, which is what we were going to do anyways.
Well, no, we were going to have the public
Oh,
hearing
the
on the 19th and then vote on the 26th.
No.
Is what you were gonna
Let's
do.
consolidate.
Yes, I
We're just
agree.
going to end up probably starting a little earlier on that night, just to.
Do we? Yeah, is there something there?
At 6 p.m.?
Yeah, 6 p.m.
Even 6, exactly. Whatever makes it to make it fly.
6 on the 26th.
Yep. You set?
Thank you for your support for the full-time position. I know everybody out front is going to really appreciate it. I know we are.
I've seen the lines out front sometimes. I know you need some help out there.
I mean, this town's growing. It's changed, and and we're not servicing them well because they're waiting long periods of time. And
Well, there's a certain level that eventually when we get staff that are fully able to do just beyond the cookie cutter too, because I mean, my one observation on a certain Friday was you have one staff member that can work on the oddball transactions,
Yeah.
and that causes the line to go out the door.
Because we've got too many new people working
Right,
out there.
the turnover is present there.
Yeah.
Next item.
Under appointments, none. Council communications.
We have new appointments.
No.
Council communications, anyone? I got nothing. Moving right along.
Audience participation for new items.
Anybody wishing to speak for? Yes, please.
Tom Martin, Lisbon Public Works Director. Good evening. Just a quick update. The crew, we came off a long winter, as everybody knows, and a real short spring right into summer. Well, it seems like summer, not today, but it seems like October today. But we had a litany of citizen concerns, so we've been really focusing on that and getting to the end of that, thankfully, getting the emergency potholes done and trying to get our sweeping program going. We aren't having much luck with our sweeper, unfortunately. We go out for a day and we're down for 4 days, but we're pushing forward with that. It was back on its feet today, so we'll see some progress there. We have we're trying to manage figuring out how we're going to take care of all the shoulders on Summer, Gould, our road paving program. There's a lot of work there that I don't think was anticipated for us to do, but I'm not sure the budget's going to allow us to do it. So we're trying to figure that out right now. So as you know, I just started, so I'm still trying to put all the puzzle pieces together. We have we're working with MDOT on the Route 196 Main Street project. I've been talking with Ernie Martin on that project. There's some concern about that right-hand turn lane. Yeah. I've asked him that we really don't want it. It's still in the hands of the traffic engineers in Augusta, and he said he'd get back to me as soon as he hears something. But everything was still, he said don't hold out hope, but you never know. So, and we're talking with Region 1 on maybe remarking that intersection. Right now there's a dedicated right-hand turn lane, straight and left turn lane. The signals aren't signed either. They don't have a sign up there, so we're looking to maybe take and everybody sneaks by on the right-hand side, so we're going to maybe make that the straight-through right-hand turn. The left-hand left hand straight, right hand no.
Are we going to do?
Straight right.
We know what
and
you're
then a
saying, though.
dedicated left. Yeah, we're all
Anyway.
picking up what you're putting down. It's okay.
Thank you. So
Taking what we
With
got, and making
straight
it
and a
work.
right, right?
Yeah.
All in one?
Yes. Yeah, because even when you go on Google, you'll see almost every time you go there, they're always backed up. So we're going to try that, but I need to have their blessing on that before we change that. We have a pre-construction meeting tomorrow on the sewer project. Once that gets awarded and we get moving forward after the Moxie Festival, that looks like we'll be able to manage that Main Street section pretty handily. The streetscape project on 196, I've been working with Fern and some of the local property owners. I noticed that the street lights were in the sidewalk in the original design, which isn't very favorable for our maintenance. So we have been working with some property owners, which we really appreciate. They've let us go on their property, put the street lights behind the sidewalk. So that's going to be really a big plus. So, and I think it'll look a lot better. So, and they're supposed to be, I think they'll be working tonight to get in front of Aroma Joe's, get those ramps done. And then I think that was going to be the biggest section through there. It's just so congested. So they'll be happy to get out of there. So, let's see. I had one other thing. I am working on a capital improvement program for equipment, roads, and projects. Because the equipment we have, like the sweeper, for instance, it's 12 years old. It's 13 years old, excuse me. And it's it's one of those pieces that the second you start it, it's trying to tear itself apart. It's just the way they are. So the guy's doing a good job on them, but we fix one thing, we go out and something else breaks, and it's starting to see wear and tear. So, but I will be coming forward with something in the near future. And the mill and fill project on Route 196, again, that's going to start after the Moxie parade, so that'll be good too. We'll see some improvement up through there. So it's going to be a busy place this summer. You got the Mill Street Bridge. I got notification that's awarded. They'll be having pre-construction meeting coming up on that pretty soon. So we'll be having a lot happen downtown, but it's good. But price of progress. So, but if there's, I appreciate the warm welcomes, and if there's anything I can do, just please give me a call. And
Don't forget the Highway Congress.
oh shoot, yes. So yeah, on Thursday we have the Highway Congress. The crew will go up there, and they always look forward to that. They learn a lot. They go through the local roads programs up there as well, the time out for training, and they look forward to that event. So the guys will be up there. So it'll be quiet around town on Thursday. So.
Having some fun, hopefully, right?
Yeah. It is a good event. Any questions? Concerns?
Just thank you very much for doing what you're doing in downtown. It's nice to actually have some input, because you'll be dealing with these issues as time goes on. So it's nice to have the projects designed in a way that will work for you and for the crew. So thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yep.
Dorothy Fitzgerald, Lisbon Falls. You really haven't heard from me for quite a while. Kind of going back to good news and recognition, one of my great-granddaughters graduated from high school on Sunday. It was a beautiful day, and it was really, really nice to have an in-town graduation. The gym looked nice. Everyone did an outstanding job. And the speaker, Travis Mills, was outstanding. I think it was a really, really good motivational thing for our kids to hear. Someone that has gone through what he has and still has persevered. Anyway, my comments tonight is duplication of services. Most people have eliminated their landlines and use their cell phones. Using both is a duplication of services, and eliminating landlines is a way to save money. So I'm wondering why we here in town are not looking for more ways to save money. Police department's looking for 2 additional police officers, and there was a big discussion on the IT service. And eliminating the comm center is a duplication of services. Closing that would free up to 4 positions. Those 4 positions could be used for the 4 positions you'd like to add. The Lisbon emergency 911 calls, or the 911 calls, go to Androscoggin County, come back to the comm center in order to dispatch first responders, instead of going directly to Lisbon emergency, like everyone else in the county does. Is that not the same thing, a duplication of services? We're paying dearly for the communication center here in town. Recently, the town manager and the finance director contacted various communities in Maine similar to in population to ours, asking what they pay various department heads and employees. Shouldn't we be comparing tax bases instead of just population? We are not Freeport, we're not Lisbon, we're not Bowdoin, we're not Brunswick, we're not Kennebunkport. They all have different property values. I noticed in the budget our property values have gone down a little bit, and yet our taxes are going to be going up. We have some new businesses in town, but they're all located in former businesses, so that has not increased our tax base. The town manager mentioned the Graziano's lot. I didn't hear what you were saying. Has that finally gone under contract?
We're going to close on it on Friday. The town is.
That's been on the market for a long time. We haven't had any takers. The property next door to the town office has been on the market for a long time. Those are prime commercial properties, but nobody's snapping them up. Our condition of roads, it leaves a poor impression in town. We need to free up some money to pay for these things. We have a great school department, sports programs, LJAL, sports for the kids, some new playing fields. We have a lot to offer. But we cannot continue down this road with increasing taxes. We need to do something about holding our taxes. Tracy has a lot of plans for Lisbon Village, but we just need to start saving money, stop duplication of services, and if the town taxpayers, town residents could vote for the town budget as we do the school budget, I think we'd see a lot of changes. I think a lot of people, town manager and town council, would think a lot more about the budget, wage increases, all of that before spending taxpayer money. Thank you.
Thank you, Dot. Anyone else? Please.
Cramped. Mary Morgan Alexander, Chair of the Board of Zoning Appeals, though that's not relevant. I would like to give the greatest of marks to the police and fire department. We had a 2-year-old child go missing the other day. That child went into the bushes, apparently chasing a cat, according to what I heard. And it was within 2 hours that they deployed and rescued this child, and the child was returned unharmed. Good, top-rate job. First marks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Moving right along then, Twyla.
No executive session. Order 2018-122 to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
That was quick. I like that.
That was quick.
Zero.
Quick and painless.
No, it's all good. I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
Pop up on there.
I actually have one